Hello everyone. I hope you all enjoyed the keynote this morning. It's an exciting time for all of us. Agentic AI is evolving rapidly, and you saw how you can use Aera Decision Cloud to leverage and harness the power safely and securely with your data, your people, and your process, and put that to use to drive better decisions. Now, in this session, we are going to see how that works. Right? So how do you really take a business need, right? A decision process that your teams run every day and turn that into a skill that delivers measurable outcomes, right? So that's the goal. And before we do that, let's take a quick moment to understand Aera Decision Cloud. Yeah? Right. Okay. So there are essentially 4 foundational pillars in Aera Decision Cloud. Okay, I'm going to unpack that and do a quick recap of that. So the first one is the Aera Decision Data Model. So it's really the backbone of the platform. Okay, Aera Decision Model essentially unifies your enterprise data into a connected decision-ready structure. And because it is connected directly to all of the engines that we have in a platform, every analysis, simulation, and decisions are always running on live, trusted data without any duplication or rework, right? And on top of that, as decisions are made, it also captures the actions, the outcome, and the impact, and does a continuous feedback loop. So the system continuously learns and makes better decisions in the future, right? So that's the foundation. Then we have the decision engine. This is really the computational layer of the platform. So it has all powerful engines that drives the reasoning and all of the calculations that are required for decision. So it analyzes what's happening, it forecasts what's ahead, it simulates the outcome of different scenarios, it generates the right recommendation, and it can also take action if the business allows, right? Then we have the agentic ambient orchestration. So we touched upon it briefly in the morning. So this is really the layer that helps us bring together the power of generative AI and the deterministic AI, the reasoning together, and then use that in your decision flows to drive better decisions. Then you have the decision engagement. This is where we make all of this intelligence accessible and usable by the decision makers within your organization. Whether it is proactive recommendations through our Aera inbox, or through self-service analytics through discovery, or through what-if explorations through our calc models, or through natural language interactions through chat. Yeah? Then bringing all of this together is Workspaces. This is really where all of the magic happens. It's the hub where teams come together and work collaboratively to build end-to-end decision intelligence skills. And then we have control room. Before that, we have control room that really acts as a command center for your enterprise. Right? It's where your decision architects and administrators track everything that's happening within the platform. You see how the data moves, how the skills are performing, you track adoption, and get full end-to-end visibility of all of the operations of your autonomous enterprise. Okay, so that's just a quick intro, and then we'll get into the demo. So in this demo, I'm going to start with engagement. So today morning, Laurent and Juliana already showed a day in the life of a business planner, right? So I'm going to just quickly touch upon that, but then we'll focus more on how that intelligence gets built, right? So we'll jump into Workspaces, where all the teams work together, and then look at how the data is built within the decision data model, how the decision logic is captured within the decision flows. Then we'll talk about few engines, especially the calc engine, and then we'll talk a little bit about Data Wizard and how you can quickly add on data into the platform, and then touch very briefly on agentic, because we have another session following that, and then control room. So that's a quick overview of how we're going to do the demo. Yeah? Right. So what you see here is the Aera homepage. So this is a single unified place where users have access to all the tools they need, whether to make decisions, automate decisions, all just one click away. Right? Again, Laurence showed this earlier. So let's say I'm a business planner. The first thing that I see are the different skills that are working for me. So these skills, they understand my role, they generate real-time recommendations, and they take actions if I choose to, and they learn from all of the decisions that are made. So let me open up one of the skills that's here, material risk management. Right? So in the material risk management, I notice directly my recommendations in the inbox. So this skill understands everything about materials, suppliers, and it has already identified recommendations about a supplier risk with a vendor called Zentro, and it's asking me to rebalance the sourcing mix. Now, I can either take actions directly from here, or I can click View Details to understand everything about this recommendation. Right? So I can see that Aera has come back and explaining to me in natural language what the current situation is, and it has evaluated various options, and it is recommending that I change the allocation to a different percentage here. Right? And I can drill down, I can also look at what the impact is if I, before that, and also if I accept the recommendation, what is going to be the impact. So all of this information is available for me. So with this information, I can now take an action. I can either accept, modify, or dismiss. And the good thing is when I accept the recommendation, the system is going to flawlessly execute that into whatever system it's required, and without needing me to log into those systems, right? So it is doing the work for me. So these are recommendations. Now, for decision support and analytics, I also have Aera Chat, okay? And earlier, I asked, I wanted to know what the supplier scores are, so I asked a question, right? And here, Aera has already understood what I'm asking from the questions, and it has returned me back the supplier scores, right? So I can see that Zentro is having a really a low responsive score. So I see that Zentro is only 66%, right? So Aera has already given me this information. So this is how decision makers and business analysts sort of interact and engage with Aera, right? So now let's look at what happens behind the scenes and how this data and the skill behind this experience gets built. Okay, so for that, I'm going to click on Workspaces. Okay, so as I said, Workspaces is really where the magic happens. So it's where the teams come together. It could be all the different types of users that usually participates in decision intelligence projects. It could be data experts. It could be data scientists, application developers, business analysts. They all come together into a single place and work collaboratively on building either the data model or the skills. And of course, these are all controlled by role-based access control. So each user, when they log in, they only see the relevant tools that are applicable for them. Now, the first thing that I see here is a list of workspaces. These are all the workspaces that I have in this project. I'm going to open up the decision data model workspace. Okay, so right away I'll see a number of objects here. So decision data model workspace is where data experts come and build and manage the decision data model, right? So I have all the tools to ingest the data, to process the data, and publish a curated, consumable data model in terms of dimensions and subject areas and data views to the rest of the users or the engines to use, right? So it always have live, sort of trusted data within the platform. And the beauty of it is that this decision data model workspace comes out of the box, and it includes a rich library of out-of-the-box content. So it has a standard set of crawlers for standard systems like SAP. So you see hundreds of crawlers predefined and pre-built already for you. It has data processing streams. Similarly, it has hundreds of standard data model entities, dimensions, subject areas, each of them pre-configured with attributes and dimensions and KPI measures that have been pre-created based on the industry and domain expertise that we had, right? And you'll also notice that each of these also includes detailed descriptions. So this data model becomes readily usable by our agentic decision intelligence platform, so that when you ask a chat question or when the Aera agentic decision intelligence runs, it knows exactly what data point to access from this information, right? So it's readily available.
So Lalitha, maybe just to double down on that point, because when we talk to customers today, we hear a lot about how do you enable chat, for example?
Exactly.
How do agents know what to do? So that description you were showing creates the first ontology, really.
Exactly.
Right, so the DDM, you now have those descriptions, they're robust. The agents know what to go after to get there.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what gets used when I ask a question. Right. It's interpreted and it knows where to pick up the data from based on this information, and it's all pre-populated. Of course, it's completely customizable, extensible, but you have a great jump start of the content already.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Right, so now let me open up another workspace which powered the skill that I showed you earlier, which is the material risk management, right? So this is a skill workspace, and immediately you will notice that I have a lot more than what I showed before. This is because I have access to a lot more capabilities in order to build a skill, right? I have, of course, access to data that is required for the skill. Then I have visualization. I can also create and deploy machine learning models and use that within a skill. I have agentic AI capabilities and then automation processes. So all of these capabilities are all available in a single place so that the different types of users, whether it is data experts or decision engineers or data scientists, they can work collaboratively. They can reuse what one worked on and build on the other, right? So it's very easy to use platform, right? So the first thing that I'm going to show is our decision object. So you saw that there was a supplier risk recommendations that was generated. So all of that recommendations and the data that we are capturing behind the decisions are all captured using this decision object. So you'll notice that it comes again out of the box with standard columns like recommended action, action taken, what's the priority. All of this information is very useful for us to capture the decisions and then use that further in our learning process, right? So now let me open up a process that powered the recommendation, which is the supplier resilience recommendation that I showed you earlier. So what you see here is our drag and drop interface for designing decision flows. Okay, we call it the process builder. And this is based on a patented depth-first execution model, which is optimal for designing and executing decision logic. And right away, you'll notice that there are a lot of nodes that are connected. So I have access to a number of different nodes to either capture deterministic logic or generative logic to digitize the decision process and execute them, right? And I can also access data. I can run data science models. I can create agents. I can generate recommendations. I can take actions, right? So this is the main sort of interface that allows me to orchestrate access data and generate recommendations. And you'll notice that I can also use agents here, right? So just a quick walkthrough of this process. So you can see that it's getting the required data, in this case, supplier and demand data. It's evaluating risks. It's running simulation using our calc model. And then it is identifying the best alternative and then generating the recommendation. And it's also evaluating some rules to identify if some of these decisions can be automated, right? If I choose to do so. So it's fully configurable, right? So depending on this, the recommendations are generated and executed automatically. Let me open up a calc model.
So when you're going to that, maybe just to step back for 1 second too. So I'm thinking about from a COE owner, right? So you will have spent time at this point doing your design work, thinking about the process flows that you're bringing together, a lot of that intentionality and purpose that we've been hearing about throughout today, really, right? So you're starting to think about what are those outcomes I'm trying to get to, and then within the workspace now, you have the ability to be able to show that decision process flow as they're coming to life. All the data that you showed in the DDM and the decision data model is now accessible to those users that are using that palette, right, that process builder to be able to bring this to life in a big way. And now when we start looking at calc in a second, we're going to see how you can even modify that very quickly and very easily to bring this really to the speed of business.
Exactly. So yeah, what you see here is our calc model. And calc model enables me to run multi-dimensional calculations, scenarios, and simulations very easily, right? It has access to all the data in the decision data model. So you'll see that I'm able to access standard dimensions like material, supplier. These are all populated readily based on the decision data model workspace that I showed you earlier. And I'm accessing some supplier performance metrics right here. And I can write formulas using familiar Excel-like language to, to run calculations, right? So in this case, this calc model is creating an allocation plan based on the supplier performance metrics and allocating different materials and different allocation percentages according to these performance scores.
And if something changes in the business, what's the process to go through and then update this in real time?
Yeah, so it's quite easy to do. First of all, because this language is simpler to use, it's easy for non-technical users to come here and modify them. And even if you want to add a new data point to it, right? So we talked about Data Wizard earlier. So Data Wizard, and let me open up an existing one in the interest of time. Data Wizard lets me bring in new data. So in this case, the calculation was using the current supplier performance metrics. And what I want to be able to do is, I have financial health data, and I want to proactively look at the financial health of suppliers. So I have a new file that has that data, and I'm going to bring that in and use those credit scores into my calculations to redo my allocation plan. So here I brought in the supplier financial file, and the system automatically, looking at the file, it was a flat file, and it identified the right dimensions. It identified that there was already an existing supplier in my decision data model. So it identified all of the business entities that are required, and it loads the data into the decision data model, as simple as 3 steps, right? So once that is done, the data is available in the data views. I can simply select the data that's been imported and then add it into the calc model. So once I do that, the new supplier financial data is available here, and then I can simply get the new credit score and drag and drop into my financial score and link it to the calc model. It's as simple as that, right?
That's super powerful.
Yeah, so now the credit score is being used as part of your allocation plan, and if I save it and go to my sheets,
I'm also thinking about scenarios too. I was talking to a customer recently where they wanted to be able to bring in, for example, orders that were being escalated, that were actually coming through as Excel files, through emails, things like that as well. And as a planner, I'd be thinking to myself, well, what do I need to do to be able to bring that into the process? Do I need to work through my COE to create an official data pipeline? Or is this something I can bring in? And what you just showed with Data Wizard would be the way to do that?
That's right, exactly.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then once, you can bring that in, and then if you want to go through a regular pipeline, then you can work with your COE too.
Right, if it becomes a recurring process, that you want to have something consistent that you can rely on. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So here it is, this is our calc model, and I can see the current allocation, and you'll notice that the financial score has come in now, and the final allocation is still 85%. That's the current model. So I'm going to change that to the recommended scenario, which is taking the new financial score into consideration. And you'll notice that it has now changed it to 30% because there was a constraint, contractual constraint of 30% for this particular vendor, right? And I can change it instantly here and then see what would happen if I change the allocation. So in this case, let's say instead of 5, I can change it to 10. And I can change it to 0 and then immediately see the impact. So that's the power of the calc model, where you can run scenarios, change values, and immediately see the impact. And then use that in the decision process.
We saw that with Juliana earlier with Loranes, right? Where she was actually going in and she was saying, in the moment, I want to be able to modify this based on something else that I know. She went into the modification UI and actually started playing with the calc in real time, seeing the impacts of that and then being able to commit it back. So when you start thinking about how do you get your users to really adopt and adhere to the recommendations, this puts a lot of power in their hand where they can now bring that incremental knowledge that they have to the table. They're not going offline to have to work in Excel or some other spreadsheet, leaving the Aera Decision Cloud at that point and kind of losing that circular action, if you will, right? Now they're staying in the platform. They have the flexibility to do what they do. And I would assume that if you see that a lot, you can now bring that back into Process Builder.
Exactly, yeah. So whatever you built, now all of that gets reused within the skill so that you can use that seamlessly for automatic decisions, right? So, so what I'm showing here is just a quick addition to the process that I showed you earlier, just to show you that this process can evolve over time as your business needs evolve, right? And it is very simple to change that. So in this case, I've brought in a new supplier response agent. And Mustafa will go into a lot more detail about how our agentic decision intelligence works. But just to show you quickly, here this agent's responsibility is to parse the supplier emails and then use that response as part of the decision process, right? And it's as simple as adding that, defining that agent, defining the prompt in natural language, and plugging that into my existing decision process. Okay. So let me just open up. Yeah, so here is the agent that's getting used here. So once all of this done, again, then what you can do further is set up the skill. How does the skill looks like? What are the recommendations, etc. And then you publish the skill. So this is how you go from data. You define your logic, you define your calculations, and then you publish the skill to make it live within the Aera Decision Cloud. Once this is done, then you get full visibility in our control room. And again, we saw this briefly today morning. And as a decision architect or an administrator, you can come into the control room and get full visibility of all the things that's happening within the platform. So I can see how the data moves. I can see how the platform is getting adopted. And I can see all information about the skills performance and the decisions that are being made within the platform. Right? So you can see the number of recommendations accepted, rejected. You can see the entire lineage of a particular skill. So action, status, reason, what was the trade-offs, what was the trigger, root cause. So all of this rich decision information is captured in our decision data model. And then this gets used further for learning and improving the recommendations over time. So,
and I'm smiling a little bit because I'm geeking out a little bit from the decision intelligence architect type role. This is the type of data that I want to start playing with, this metadata, to understand how can I evolve the living, breathing thing that has become this skill to make sure that adoption rates continue to increase and adherence rates, meaning the accept percentages, continue to increase.
Yeah.
And all that metadata that you need, including the modification reasons, the rejection reasons, they're all here.
They're all here, exactly. Yeah? All right,
Decision
we can
goal.
switch back to the slides a bit. Right, okay, so what we saw in the demo is just doing a quick recap. We saw how decision makers engage with the platform. We saw how the data model itself gets built and populated. We saw the decision flows, how the calc engine is used within the decision flow. We saw quickly data wizard, agentic, and finally control room to monitor everything that's happening within the platform. So yeah, so that's a quick demo. Hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalitha.